Peace. Alright, today we are going to talk about food, talk about diet. Let's talk about the way we eat. Let's talk about the modern food trends, what's going on with the food system. Let's talk about that. I feel like that's really important in this modern time and age. You know, it's like we still got a lot of debate on that, so I think it's important to discuss that. Peace, everybody, come in the room. Peace, welcome. I'm just out here for a walk, and behind me is the lava flow where it stopped, but this is like the end of the road, and then from here I go back, so it's like the halfway mark, but I got some decent internet connection, so I figured I'd just do my live here for the day. If you haven't checked out my posts that I made, check them out. Made some cool little animations or edits on some videos, and so if you check that out, I think you'll really enjoy that. Okay, yeah, I guess I should probably explain. Quetzalcoatl is basically an ancient force, god, spirit, but it's the feathered serpent, and in traditional, they call Mesoamerican, but it's really Anahuac. It's a whole group of people from all the way from Nicaragua all the way to Alaska, and all of those regions, all these tribes was like one kingdom, was one nation called Anahuac. And so, but they shared very similar beliefs, and Quetzalcoatl is the feather serpent, and that's like one of the gods of creation, along with Tezcatlipoca. So yeah, you could look further into that, but you said, why you change your name so much? Seems like a confused being. Nah, I mean, I'm just doing what resonates with me. But I mean, just because you don't change your name don't mean you're not confused. And even if you think you're not confused, or you think you got to figure it out, don't mean you got to figure it out. So what that represents for me is that I'm at least in the admittance that I don't have it figured out, but I am progressing and I'm moving forward to figure it out. Because if you think you already know, you'll never know. Because you already know, why would you try to learn anything if you already know? So I'm still on figuring things out, putting things together for myself. If you got to figure it out, cool, you know. You probably don't need to be here, don't need to be anywhere. Just transcend from this dimension, because what you came here to experience, you already figured it out. So, okay, diet. All right. Where is your diet leading you to? This is important. Why? Because diet is a source to connect you with something. And how's it going? Throughout my journey, when I first started, it was plant-based. It was raw, vegan, plant-based. And even just 5-6 years ago, veganism was really leading people to nature. It really was. I did see it as a way to leading people to nature, and it was a lot of natural things involved, and people were wanting to grow their own food and have their own gardens and go harvest the food from their environment. But in recent times, I'm seeing a emergence of another form of it, in which it's directing and leading people back to a system, or keeping people in a system, in a mindset that's not towards nature. So this is where I had to alienate myself, and I had to inoculate myself from that form of thinking, because I realized that my true mission here, and what I'm really about beyond diet, beyond what I eat and put in my mouth, is the connection to nature, is the connection to the environment, and ultimately the connection to myself and what I truly am and the truest essence of that. So along my way, I have to get rid of things that weren't in alignment with that, even though they seem to be in alignment with that. We associate plant-based vegan diets and a lot of these diets that we have to be in alignment with nature, but if you look at the people who practice them for long periods of time, they're still in the same predicament, and they're even more comfortable being entrenched in an environment that's not healthy for them, because they have not connected the dots that the diet is supposed to lead you back to nature. That's the spiritual component of a diet, is that it leads you to the source of its consciousness. So if you're eating food that's been man-made, that's in factory made and all that, that's going to lead you to the consciousness of civilization. It's going to lead you to the consciousness that is poisoning the planet, because that's where it came from. That's the consciousness that it came from. But the more you go towards wild food that has been unchanged, because let me tell you something about food. Pretty much all the food that we eat is not original. It's not what it used to be. It's been, at some point, here's what happened. A plant was originally natural, undomesticated in its environment, and humans came and put their consciousness into the plant. So over hundreds and hundreds of years, they chose traits, they kept seeds, replanted, and chose different characteristics. So they wanted a plant that was bigger. They chose the traits from the seed that would give them a bigger plant. And, gradually it kept becoming something, and now we have all these plants that are nothing like the progenitors, meaning what it came from. But nonetheless, you got to realize that everything has been put a consciousness into it. Everything has been put an intention into it. So when I see the whole Impossible Burger campaign, Burger King got a vegan burger, McDonald's had a vegan burger, it's all interlinked, because now what was supposed to be leading you back to nature has been co-opted by a system that's trying to keep you indoctrinated and domesticated mentally. And so that is what you got to realize when you're eating food. If you're eating an Impossible Burger, realize that that's a consciousness of a sick, demented mind that wants to poison you, because it's poisoning itself. It doesn't really understand itself at what this reality is. So it's a strategy. It's like capitalism is supply and demand. It's just seeing a market and fulfilling that market's needs. It has nothing to do with health. It ain't nothing to do with health. No, people don't care about health. They care about making money. They care about profit. And so you're gonna see all this emerge, and they're gonna push this agenda on you and they're gonna try to make you forget that what you were trying to do originally was to reconnect back to nature and reconnect back to the original, the raw, real truth of life. Not the fabricated, domesticated, pre-packaged and boxed truth of life, which is what they're giving you. I'm saying we need to connect to the original truth, and that's not going to look like what you've been trained to think it should look like, because the people who have been training us and teaching us how to be undomesticated are domesticated themselves. So we're learning how to be sane from insane people. So when I look into the timeline of human existence, and I look into ancient people, I look into tribal people, this is where I get inspiration from, because now I'm tapping into a mind that hasn't been domesticated. Now I'm tapping into a mind that has remained its connection to nature throughout time. So this mind is the gateway back to ourselves. This mind is how we reconnect to the truest version of who we are. And in the process, yeah, we might adopt a vegan diet. Yeah, we might stop eating meat. In the process of trying to find this original undomesticated mind, we will go through facets of different cleansing. And I think that's all part of the process. I've been through so much cleansing myself, but it became to a point where I'll never be clean enough. You could never be clean enough to a mind that thinks you're dirty, like inherently dirty. It's like I was always trying to clean myself. I was always trying to get rid of something that I thought was there, but it was really mentally there in my mind. And so I fasted. I stopped eating meat. I stopped eating cooked food. I thought cooked food was the worst thing ever. And if you ate any cooked food, you were no longer pure and you were just weak. And I couldn't have you in my reality. If you can't be on a raw food diet, like I don't fuck with you, like you're weak, you have to eat cooked food. Like I was that much like disciplined to my dedication to clean my body out and to be free of what I thought was burdening me physically, but it was a burden mentally that I was trying to reconnect with a part of myself, but I didn't know how because I had no guidance. And the people who were trying to guide me were people who had been domesticated themselves as well. We all come from this system, this matrix, this make-believe indoctrinated society. So when I'm trying to reconnect to nature, I think it's smart to look at people who have never been domesticated for signs of what that even looks like. What does it really look like to be in tune with nature? Because I can learn from somebody who came from where I came from, but they have the mind of where I came from. They have the influence of that. They have the program of that. But the people who have always existed in nature, who are practicing the same shit that they've been practicing for thousands of years, that's something solid. That's something that I could really bet my life on, because you've seen it work time and time again over multiple generations, and you've seen the repercussions of that. So now that's my compass right there. That's my guidance, because to me that is God. When I see somebody make fire from scratch with the elements, and they control the elements, and they got full control of that, and they could spark a fire using what's available in their environment, to me, that's God, because now you're controlling the elements. Now you are no longer subject to what's happening, but now you're in control. You have the knowledge of how to survive in that environment. So half of us, or most of us, I should say, if you put us out into natural environment, truly, we would not survive. So if our diet was so keen on connecting us back to nature, we would have the adequate skills and be developed in such a way that we could survive if you put us in a natural environment. But the reality is that we don't have an intimate enough connection. We only connected metaphysically in our mind, but really it's not nothing that translates into actual real world experience or real world action that can actually help us survive. Like it's just an illusion in the mind. So I'm always trying to connect to the tangible part of how to do things. We can talk about it, we can theorize about it, philosophize about it, but unless we can do it physically and actually, put it into practice and see results from that, then it's not really real. It's just, it might help you mentally, but real world application is a different thing. So my diet all this time has been taking me to nature. Always trying to be less packaged, less processed, more organic, more wild. When I talk about wild, let me tell you about the importance of wild. Wild is something that has not been domesticated. Wild is something that if you put it out there, it's going to grow. It's going to grow wherever it's going to thrive wherever it's at, because it's that strong genetically. It can survive places where domesticated plants can't. That's why gardening is like the bridge to the natural world, because you still working with plants that are domesticated. You still got to nurture them, and you do learn a lot of lessons through that. But beyond that is a plant that can withstand on its own, that it can hold its own ground and survive and thrive without the nurture and in the delicateness of these other plants, So these are beings that when you tap into this sort of food, it's a different consciousness, because it's not hindered or tapped in or distorted by the consciousness of humans, of the human mind, of the domesticated mind. It's been in its natural state, the way its environment wanted it to exist since the beginning of time, right? Or since it's evolving progressively in the most natural sense possible, And so you have all these plants that people call weeds, but they just grow prolifically because they're genetically stronger. They're adapted for any kind of environment, and so they grow everywhere. You can't stop them. We call them weeds, but really they're the strongest. They're the most, the most surviving plants that you can find, but we cut those away, and then we plant plants that we need to baby, that we need to water, that if any little temperature fluctuation happens, they die. So then we intake this food and expect it to give us the same components that the wild food is giving us, when that's never going to be the case. So when we're talking about food, it's all consciousness, it's all awareness, but what type of awareness? And what awareness are you putting into your body? Are you putting in a domesticated awareness that has been, cultivated by domesticated people over time? Or are you putting an awareness of synthetic chemicals, of genetic modification, of a world that's bioengineered for maximum profit? Or are you putting in the purest, wildest, untamed, undomesticated consciousness and awareness into your being? And that's, to me, where food has led me. And that is nature. That is the natural world. That is the original world over which every other world is constructed upon. So it became a lot less about which kingdom I was eating from. I'm outlining this video. There's 5 kingdoms. You have, first of all, the elements, the sun, the wind, the earth. These are all the elements that play a role in our health. The sun gives us vitamin D hormone. The winds, they keep us nourished, or they sway the trees around and pollinate the trees and become part of our diet in some way or another. The earth, we eat salts and minerals from the earth. All these are components. The water, of course, hydrates us and stuff. That's a component of the diet. Then you got the bacteria, which is things like fermented foods. You got spirulina, chlorella, which, like Aztecs, they will cultivate spirulina and use it as a protein source. But they didn't stop there. It's like we like to romanticize about the diet, but no, it goes further. Then you have plants, the plant kingdom, beautiful kingdom. I love, one of my favorite kingdoms, the plant kingdom. You have fruits, flowers, tubers, roots, seeds, nuts, grains. All these are the plant kingdom. Beautiful kingdom, gives us a lot of nutrition. Okay, but why stop there? We got the animal kingdom. We got flesh, meat, organ meats. You have eggs, you have dairy, you have all these components from the animal kingdom that you can use to nourish your body. You have the fungal kingdom. You have all these types of mushrooms that you could eat, edible mushrooms, even the yeast that they use to make beer and bread that comes from the fungal kingdom. So it's a whole host of organisms and kingdoms out here, but we've been trained to only eat from one because somebody said it will make you more spiritual. But let me break this down. If a plant is high vibrational, and if you eat that plant, it makes you high vibrational, why does it not cross your mind then that when you eat an animal that spends all day long eating this high vibrational plant, that you wouldn't pick up the condensed energy or vibration that this animal ate? Why doesn't it work that way? Oh, because that's not the way you've been trained. But if you looked at it for what most people are saying, that's the way it should work. If you're talking about animals, we're talking about condensed energy. We're talking about concentrated energy, concentrated nutrition in the tissue from the grass. And cows and ruminant animals, which is the animals that roam the plains and eat grass all day, they have 4 stomachs, so they through a process called hindgut fermentation or foregut fermentation, they process this grass that we can't eat. We can't sustain all this grass, but they process it into something that we can consume. So that's the disconnect between our world, because it's an unwillingness to look further into the truth and to stop at only what makes you comfortable, what makes you familiar. Because most people aren't willing to go to the extent to connect with that real raw part of themselves. We stop at our comfort zone. We stop at what's readily available. But if you have to go out and get this for yourself and have this experience with nature, most people aren't willing to do that. No, that's not true. See, Helen the Light said we cannot break down the flesh so that the decaying process makes us sick. That is absolutely not true. If you eat beans and rice, I guarantee you that it will have a harder time digesting than if you ate a fresh piece of fish or a fresh piece of any meat. Like, those things are harder to digest on your body. These grains and nuts and all these combinations of food, these oils that we got to put into the food to give us enough calories to sustain ourselves. It's been a lie. I'm telling you, it's been a lie, because if that were true, if that really caused disease, you wouldn't exist. And this is another issue that I have, that we don't honor and respect what got us to this point. And the reason we're losing that, we're losing our ancient heritage and our lineage and what sustained us, is because we don't appreciate it. We don't appreciate our ancestors and what they had to do to get us here and have us in this form, be this healthy and this well constructed as machines. We don't appreciate that. So we look for something else. We look for modern science to give us something that they already had, that they already knew. They already had a system in a way that was working. But we are so cocky, we're so confident, we're so arrogant that we don't want to listen to that. We don't want to listen to that ancient wisdom. We rather listen to that modern meme on Instagram that said, dairy's not yours, or meat causes cancer, meat is acidic. All the plants that you're eating are acidic. Most of the plants that you eat are not alkaline. And then they're going to say, oh, well, when it breaks down in your stomach, it becomes alkaline. Well, if we were in our natural environment, I guarantee you that it would not become about being vegan. It would not become about being carnivore. You would develop a different way of life that would be relevant to where you are. And your environment would dictate what you eat. Not the grocery store, not the meme on social media, not the influencer telling you that food makes you more spiritual. It would be directly correlated to where you are in the world. So you will have a tropical diet for the tropics. You will have an inland diet for the inland. You would have a North American diet for the people living in North America. Each region would host its own diet, because that's the way life works. You eat from your environment if you want to be in tune with nature. You don't eat from the grocery store, and you don't discriminate on everything in life, because everything is symbolic, everything is spirit, and everything is a cycle. When I die, rightfully so, this earth will reclaim my body, and rightfully so, the organisms will eat me and reclaim my body back into the soil so that it can give that cycle all over again. Rightfully so. It's not something I'm trying to avoid. I encourage that. I encourage that. That's the natural process, and I'm all for that. The more we tap into these other alternate ways of being, the more we try to elude death. We try to elude the cycle, the natural cycle. So we become a parasite onto the earth, because we're trying to hold on to this life. We're trying to hold on to this physical form. We're trying to stay here forever, look young forever, and never mature and grow into our, adolescent stages of having that wisdom and having something to give back to the next generation that's going to lead. We want to hold on to that youth and shave all our hair off and pretend we're never aging because we're vegan. But nah, you're not. That's not the way life had it ordained for you. You're supposed to go through that cycle, through that process, because you're supposed to gain wisdom and experience, because the next generation is going to depend on that experience. It's going to depend on your wisdom. So when you're gray and your old hairs will be a symbol of the age and the time that you have lived, that is going to be able to let me know that I could receive proper guidance from you as an elder. And so I get it, because a lot of people don't age gracefully. A lot of people, I don't like to call it aging, I like to call it maturing. You mature into a different age. Yeah, you're a child, but you don't want to stay a child. You want to grow into adolescent. You want to stay adolescent. Eventually, you grow into adult. And eventually, you grow into an elder. And eventually, your body goes back to the earth. And that process starts all over again with another soul. So there's no malice in that for me. There's no evilness in that. There's no negative in that. Because I accept what is. I accept the natural order of things. I'm releasing, and I release all conditioned minds that won't allow themselves to see nature for what it truly is and accept nature for what it truly is and embody it, because that's our salvation. Nature is the way when we allow it to be the way, not when we put our own mind to it, because we're sick, man. It's not going to take generations of time for us to reintegrate back into a natural way of thinking, back into a natural life, because we've been indoctrinated for so many years. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time, but that's the message for today. If your diet isn't leading you back to a natural environment, if your diet isn't leading you away from synthetic, from wearing less clothes, from being in an environment where you could be yourself truly and be authentic and real in your skin suit, if it's not leading you to that, then to me, that's a misleading diet. That's a misleading way of eating, and it's a misleading way of looking at the world. And I don't want any part of it. Like I said, my number one mission is to reconnect to the earth, reconnect to nature. I don't care what that looks like. If I had to hunt my own animal, if I had to fish my own fish, like that's what I want to move towards, because there's no resistance in me. It's just what nature wants. What do you want, nature? Oh, okay, we got to do this. Okay, cool. I understand the cycle. I understand the spiritual aspect behind it. I'm connected just like my ancestors were. That's why I changed my name, Quetzalcoatl. That's not what. That's an ancient language for you. From the Mayan people and the Aztecs, the Anahuac Empire. That's the creative energy. That's the feathered serpent. And that's the energy that I'm embodying. It's not no superficial thing that you could get on social media, or it doesn't come with a social media package. It doesn't come with anything that you could purchase. It's a consciousness, it's a mind state beyond the domesticated. It's the undomesticatable. And you know, that's what it is. And that's why I'm teaching in Spanish too, because every language, every tongue got to be spoken this message. And you have what you have for a reason, because you're supposed to teach what you have. This is the knowledge that I've been given. This is the knowledge that is coming through me to share with the world. Like I said in my live, like I'm not holding back anymore. Like this is who I am. And if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. If you don't agree with it, it's cool. You don't have to agree with it. But I'm not going to hold myself back from the message and the enlightenment that I have to give to the world, because this is how it's been given to me. So, you know, that's the way I look at it. So anybody has questions about, you already know, I eat what's available in my environment. Your environment dictates your diet, and the more wild, undomesticated foods you eat, the better, because you tap into a conscious and awareness that has not been tainted by the mind of modern man, by the mind that has poisoned the planet. And if we all do that, every culture around the world that's ancient has done that. They've all ate what's in their environment. None of them were vegan. None of them discriminated. They didn't look at the world that way. They didn't have to be vegan, because they were spiritual in essence, in their every footstep. Every hunt towards that animal, every time they fish, it was a spiritual experience. Everything is spirit in this realm. And when you start seeing it that way, you stop disconnecting yourself from the spiritual realm and that spiritual experience. So, I hope you take that with you. I hope you got something out of this. And I will be coming back and posting that video soon when I get a chance to record or finish recording the 5 kingdoms of food: plant, fungal, animal, bacterial, and the 5 elements. And that's what it is. This is all. You could look up the scientific studies behind it, but I'm done with it. I used to be in that world with scientific studies, but what I realized is that there's so much confusion in that, because studies nowadays are paid for so much that there's an answer before the test is even done. So it's already been pre-organized to generate a certain outcome. So you just can't trust science anymore, because the people that graduate from the universities, the scientists, they have to take certain jobs with certain companies and corporations that actually fund the schools, so if they don't take these jobs and do these tests and run these studies for them, they won't get funding and they won't get paid and they can't pay back their loans. And it's just a whole system that's already been established. I already seen it broken down. And that's not my guidance system anymore. My guidance system, like I said, is the eternal, is the most natural, the highest thinking, undomesticated form of thought that you could ever experience. And that's what we're moving towards. And if you fuck with it, if you want to move towards there with me, you're welcome to be along for the journey. And it's going to be a lot of discipline, man. It's a lot of discipline in it. I believe in discipline. I believe in structure. I believe in, cleansing. I believe in the spiritual aspect of it. But I also believe in the tangible, feet in the dirt, hands in the dirt, getting dirty and being a part of it in the most tangible way possible. I think they're all important. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Enjoy your day and stay balanced in your approach at life. Don't sway too much one way. Don't sway too much the other way. Take the middle route. Be neutral. All right. Peace.